Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. Myself, Dr. Anil Kumar Dhiman, Information Scientist, Gokul Kangadi University, Haridwar. Today we will discuss assessment of information needs of different user groups under use and user studies. So let us try to understand firstly what the information is. Information word is supposed to be derived from two Latin words, forma and formation, which mean is to give a shape to something and forming a pattern. Information is considered as a basic need that can be found in primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. But what an information really is? In this regard, Madden mentions that information has occupied the thoughts of information scientists for a long time, almost certainly since before the term information science was coined in 1955. It is generally seen that information, data, and the knowledge are used synonymously, but really they are different. Data are the raw material for information, but they can be expressed numerically and are quantified, quantifiable, tabular, or objective. Data are also repetitive in nature. While information is the raw material for knowledge, but like data, information is not highly repetitive or can be quantified or quantifiable. It may be also characterized as narrative, subjective, qualitative, textual, or descriptive. When we talk about the knowledge, when information is adequately assimilated, it becomes knowledge. Giving some definition on information, Random House Dictionary mentions that information is knowledge communicated or received concerning a particular fact or circumstances, any knowledge that is gained through communication, research, or instruction. Continuing, Webster Dictionary defines information as the news or intelligence that is communicated by words or in writing, facts, or data. Knowledge derived from reading or instruction gathered in any way. Information is also tried to be defined by various scientists. Wiseman in 1972 has defined information as knowledge, intelligence, fact, or data that we can used, transferred, or communicated. It can be derived from experience, observation, interaction, and the reading. While Bhattacharya says that information is the message conveyed or intended to be conveyed by a systematized body of ideas or its acceptable substitutes. Feynman says that information is not simply a physical property of a message, rather it is a property of the message and your knowledge about it. McCready and Rice have presented information concept under following heads after reviewing 50-year summary of information work. They say information is a representation of knowledge. Information is stored knowledge. Traditionally, a storage medium has been books, but increasingly, electronic media are becoming important. Information as data in environment. Information can be obtained from a range of environmental stimuli and phenomena, but not at all of which are intended to convey a message, but which can be informative when appropriately interpreted. Information as part of communication. Meanings are people rather than in words or data. Timings and social factors play a significant role in the processing and interpretation of information. Information as a resource or commodity. Information is transmitted in a message from sender to receiver. The receiver interprets the message as intended by the sender. There may be added value as the information is disseminated or exchanged. Thus, as Madden is of the opinion, information can be a stimulus originating in one system that affects the interpretation by another system of either the second system's relationship to the first or the relationship the two systems share within a given environment. Now coming to information needs and other terms. First, try to understand difference between needs, wants, demand, and requirement. Though all of these are used interchangeable, but they are greatly different. Needs. This is the want of something which can not well do without. Wants. A state of fact being without or having an insufficient quantity, absence, or deficiency of necessities. Demand. It is required, asking for what is due, or asking for something. Requirement. It is a need, a thing needed, or a necessary condition. Thus, the concept of information needs is difficult to define, isolate, and measure because it involves a cognitive process which may operate on different levels of consciousness, hence may not be clear even to the inquirer himself. Information need arise in a person as a reaction to a stimulus. Timin says that this stimulus can be due to major life changes, other events, or life-threatening or incapacitating illness, and these can be perceived as a challenge to threat depending upon the novelty, timing in life, and the level of uncertainty or unpracticability about the event. So students, have a look on the objective of the module. We will discuss what is information along with similar kinds of terms in this module. Further, what is information need and what are its different levels and categories will be discussed. Besides, the other objectives of the module in the study will include the types of information needs, dependency of information needs of different user groups comprising of social scientists, pure and applied scientists, and general public and the children. Besides the objective of studying information need, further assessing or determination of the information needs with different methods like interview, questionnaire, observation will be discussed. Lastly, we will discuss about the role of library in satisfying information needs. The concept of information needs is difficult to define, isolate, and measure because it involves a cognitive process which may operate on different levels of consciousness and hence may not be clear even to the inquirer himself. Information need arise in a person as a reaction to a stimulus. Timin says that this stimulus can be due to major life changes, other events, or life-threatening or incapacitating illness, and these can be perceived as a challenge to threat depending upon the novelty, timings in life, and the level of uncertainty or unpracticability about the event. Facey, Soff, and Ellie mention that the term information need has become an umbrella under which a variety of interpretation fall. They mention that information need is a generic concept, then there are subsets which addresses information demand or requirements and the information needs or desires. There may be the individuals who can articulate demands and there are those who have a desire for information but are not able to specify what it is that they need. Here the definition of information demand is easy, which can refer to the demands that may be vocal or written and made to a library or to some other information system. Definition of information needs. Rowley and Turner state that information needs is any piece of information recorded as well as unrecorded that a scholar may need as distinct from want, demand and use in connection with his study, teaching and research activities. While according to Ogunrombi and Marama, information need is absolutely necessary to the management of information center and libraries. Information becomes useful only when it is packed in the right format, delivered to the right user at the right time. Information need is any stimulus that reduces uncertainty in a decision-making process. Girja Kumar has defined information needs as input process output model, where the basic components of the system are problem solving process and solution. The problem is analyzed to determine information needs. It is indicative of the uncertainty in knowledge. Solution results in resolving of the situation by filling the gap in the knowledge. Further, Adeyemi submits that information needs vary with the user's time, purpose, location, alternatives, available, and so on. Thus, information needs are vastly stated but may be summed up as the desire of an individual or the group to locate and obtain information to satisfy a conscious or unconscious need. Discussing on the level and categories of information needs, Taylor has listed 4 levels of information needs. Firstly, the conscious and unconscious need for information not existing in the remembered experience of the investigator. In terms of the query range, this level might be called the ideal question, the question which would bring from the ideal system exactly what the inquirer, if he could state his need. It is the actual but unexpressed need for information. The conscious mental description of an ill-defined area in decision. In this level, the inquirer might talk to someone else in the field to get an answer. A researcher forms a rational statement of each question. This statement is a rational and unambiguous description of the inquirer's doubts. Lastly, the question is presented to the information system. Taylor again has identified the following 8 classes of information use. They are enlightenment, problem understanding, instrumental, factual, conformational, directive, motivational, and personal or political. But these categories are not mutually exclusive, so that information used in one class may also address the needs of other classes. Thus, it is clear that despite of the varying differences in the emphasis and definition, there is consensus that information needs are linked to specific situations and that the needs arise when the present level of knowledge is limited to deal with a new situation. Types of information needs. Mangel has divided the information need into following 3 types. Number 1, reference to demand studies, which include opinions, evaluations, requests for information and experiments on the impact of a service. User studies, which include relative contributors of communication channels and critical incident studies. User interaction with the dissemination systems, as in studies of the flow of information at a scientific meeting. Further, Tago et al. Has presented some different types of the information needs. According to them, social, pragmatic information needs required for coping with the day-to-day life, recreation information needs, professional information needs, and education information needs. Dependency of information needs. Weigert has recognized 3 types of user information need dependency or approaches. They are current approach, everyday approach, and exhaustive approach. Current approach means where a user dips himself side by side with the latest development in his own field of information. Everyday approach is to meet users' frequently information needs during his research investigation, and exhaustive approach where a user wants almost all the relevant literature on a problem. According to Crawford, information needs depend on work activity, discipline or field or area of interest, availability of facilities, hierarchical position of individuals, motivation factors for information needs, need to take a decision, need to seek new ideas, need to validate the correct ones, need to make professional contributions, and need to establish priority for discovery, etc. Now have a look on the factors affecting information needs. The dependency of information needs may of various kinds, but information needs are affected by a variety of factors. Presley has listed some of them as the range of information service available, the user to which information need to be put to use, the background, motivation, professional orientation, and other individual characteristics of the user, the social, political, and economic system surrounding the user, and lastly, the consequences of information use. But the need of information is a factual situation where may exist as a separated interconnection between information and the need. Information needs of different age groups. Information needs can be determined on the basis of the following question. Firstly, does this person or group need information? That is influencing factor or social role. Does he know he needs information? This is influencing factor, problem recognition ability. And what kind of information he need? This is influencing factor, level of performance of role, nature of a specific problem, environment. While we go for information needs for different types of the people, in general we may have social scientists comprising of pure scientists and applied scientists, general public, and the children. All of them have different types of the information needs. So firstly, have a look on the information needs of social scientist. A social scientist is a person who is generally involved in teaching and research activities in any of the economics, sociology, anthropology, political science, psychology, history, public administration, and social work subject. Further, ICCSR has clubbed about 18 categories of fields under the purview of social sciences. They include economics, commerce, education, management, business administration, political science, international relations, psychology, public administration, sociology, criminology, social work, anthropology, demography, geography, history, law and linguistics. If we talk about the information needs of social scientists are extremely print-oriented and they prefer statistical, methodological, and conceptual information. Coming to the information needs of pure and applied scientists, the following branches are generally covered under the pure sciences. Physical sciences, which deal with the matter and energy and allow us to describe the material universe in terms of weight, mass, volume, and other standard objective measures. Earth sciences, which explain the phenomenon of Earth, its atmosphere, and the solar system to which it belongs. Life sciences, which describe living organisms, their internal process, and their relationship to each other and the environment. Besides, there is applied sciences, which include engineering and technology. If you talk about the information need of pure and applied scientists, Bernal has identified following categories of use in scientific information. They are fundamental scientific researcher, applied scientific researcher and developers, for example, agricultural, engineering and medical, technologists, teachers, students, report writers, interested public, and historians of science. There are 4 different types of information requirement or approaches for them. They constitute current approach that arises from the need to keep up to know what other workers in the field are doing. Everyday approach that arises in the course of daily work regularly and frequently, usually in the form of need for some specific piece of information vital for further progress. Exhaustive approach arises when work begins on a new investigation and involves a check through all the relevant information on a given subject. Catching up or brushing up approach or browsing approach that is unplanned and certainly inefficient. It is nevertheless a fruitful path to information, definitely part of the scientific and technological communication system. Information needs of public and children. There is a general public that also need information. However, majority of the general public may not be able to conceptualize their information needs, but they are to be inferred and must be satisfied. Further, children also have information need, which may vary from that of young and older people. They are also to be satisfied. Discuss some of the objectives of studying information needs. Explanation of observed phenomena of information use or express needs, prediction of instances of information use, control and thereby improvement of the utilization of information through manipulation of essential conditions, description of observed information use, definition of convenient and appropriate concepts for description and dealing with information use, and theorizing of causal or quantitative relationship between the information use and the associated factors are some of the objectives of studying information needs. Now the question arises, how we can assess or determine the information needs. Assessment is any systematic approach to collecting and analyzing information about the education needs of individuals or organizations. There are various methods used to assess information need, but generally interview, questionnaire, and observation methods are used for assessing or determining the information needs. Firstly, interview method. Interview simply means the conversation with a purpose. Interview may be self-administered, face-to-face, or telephonic interview, or maybe through video conferencing. A self-administered interview can be held through self-administered format which are distributed and get back via mails. While in face-to-face interview, the assessor can ask more questions and on specific needs. Telephonic survey exists in between the interviewer and the person being interviewed. It is cheaper than face-to-face interview but can be reached more widely. But there is somewhat greater sense of anonymity over the phone, particularly if the assessor randomly selects the information needers. Besides, nowadays interview can be held through video conferencing, which provides quick and instant assessing of information needs. Questionnaire method. A questionnaire is the list of questions sent to a number of persons for their answer and which can be obtained standardized results that can be analyzed statistically. Questionnaires are mainly made up of a list of questions but may also include clear instructions and space for answering or administrative details. Questionnaires are commonly used to gather straightforward information relating to people's need and to look upon the basic attitudes and the opinions of a group of people relating to a particular issue. Observation method. Observation is a systematic process of recording behavioral patterns of people, objects, and the occurrences as they happen. Seeing and listening are the two most important keys of observation. An observation may be further participative or non-participative types. Participative observation requires that the observer become a participant in the culture or context being observed. This type of observation is used most commonly for qualitative needs. While in non-participative observation, observer does not try to become a participant in the context. Rather, he simply observes the people from a distance. He develops greater appreciation valid activities of the group and investigates smoothly. Merits and demerits of each method. There exist many merits and demerits of each method. It is a general opinion that questionnaires and structured interview are the best method for quantifiable data, but the standardized form of a questionnaire cannot always reveal a user's unique experience. Further, the questionnaire leaves no way to determine the respondent's mood at the time or to clarify ambiguous questions or answers. Interview can do these things, however, it is more expensive and time consuming. But one of the major drawbacks of both questionnaire and interview methods is common. They cannot collect actual data on behavior as they happens. Observation, whether it is participative or non-participative, has some drawbacks. The greatest advantage of the observation method is that the participant observer is closer to the group than the non-participant observer. While the demerit of participant observation is that emotional participation of the observer may kill the objectivity. While non-participant observation is very hard on the part of the investigator to carry out. Here the observer actively participates in some of the ordinary activities while remains only distant observer in others. Coming to the role of library in information needs, we may say that information needs of the user have to be satisfied by the library and information centers through their services. The information needs relate to which information is needed, that is the theme or subject. It presupposes that any and all information about the requested subject will somehow satisfy the information need. The other approach is rather different. It might be called a situation approach, where the user wants information on a certain subject. What can be done to satisfy this need? And third one is that what does he want to know, at which level of details and abstraction, etc. This specifies the intrinsic characteristics of information, whatever the subjects may be. Continuing on the role of library in information needs, we may say that libraries are the best center for satisfying the information needs of different classes of users. Below is given a table consisting of questions and considerations and suggestions in question format. First, we can see what information do I need. So in consideration and suggestions, write down your information need in narrative form. Consider the type of information you need, background, current or statistical, etc. Then, what is the main topic? Identify the key topics of your search. Can this main concept be represented by any other terms? So generate synonyms for your topics. What are the supporting concepts? Consider aspects such as therapy, diagnosis, etiology, etc. Also consider population such as infants, baby boomers, etc. Can the supporting concept be represented by any other terms or by feature of the system? Generate synonyms for supporting concept. If you already have an idea of which resource you will use, consider feature of that system, means of heading, limits, etc. And what format is needed. Can a feature of the system represent this? Consider internal and external determinants of the format for assessing the needs of different type of the users. So continuing on the role of library in information needs, we may say that information needs assessment is the first step in any search. This small investment of time at the time of beginning of a search will save a great deal of time in the long run. Once the need has been assessed, then an appropriate information source must be selected. The table shown earlier provides an overview on the types of resources that can be used to find specific kinds of information. Further, it is also seen that more and more information available in the market due to the explosion of information at global level. Therefore, management of libraries is necessary to meet out the information needs of users. Stresses should also be given over the thorough understanding of user information needs and also on the information seeking behavior that is fundamental to the provision of successful information services, so that the information needs of different types of the users could be satisfied well. So students, we have learned about the information, data and the knowledge. They differ, however, they are used synonymously. Data are the raw material for information, but they can be expressed numerically and are quantified, quantifiable, table or objective. Information is the raw material for knowledge, but like data, information is not highly repetitive or can be quantified or quantifiable. It may be characterized as narrative, subjective, qualitative, textual, or descriptive. But when information is adequately assimilated, it becomes knowledge. We have also seen that information that arises as a curiosity is considered as a basic need which can be found in primary, secondary, and tertiary sources. While information needs are the requirements for the data or knowledge of any kind that is desirable or necessary to conduct the teaching or research. Though both are complementary of each other, but they somewhat differ. Information need arises due to psychological motives, uncleared motives, or the social motives. But where information needs ends, information seeking behaviors start to satisfy these needs. So, the module can be concluded in the words of Wilson, who mentioned that what in fact is meant by information needs is information behavior. Thank you.